Welcome to Globalpose News. US President Donald Trump has said he had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with Vladimir Putin on Wednesday in which the leaders agreed to begin negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said he and the Russian president had agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately. Later, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he had spoken with Trump about a lasting, reliable peace. The calls with the warring sides came as both Trump and his defense secretary said it was unlikely Ukraine would join NATO, which will come as a bitter disappointment to Kyiv. Zelensky said he would meet Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio during a defense summit on Ukraine in Munich on Friday. Trump wrote on social media, "It is time to stop this ridiculous war, where there has been massive, and totally unnecessary, death and destruction. God bless the people of Russia and Ukraine." He did not set a date for a face-to-face meeting with Putin, but later told reporters at the White House, "We'll meet in Saudi Arabia." He wrote on social media the pair had also invited each other to their respective capitals. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Putin supported Trump's idea that the time had come to work together. The phone call between Putin and Trump lasted nearly an hour and a half, during which the Russian president extended an invitation to visit Moscow, Peskov said. Trump also told reporters at the White House that it was unlikely Ukraine would return to its pre-2014 borders, but, in response to a question from the BBC, he said, "Some of that land will come back." The president said he agreed with his defense secretary Pete Hegseth, who told a NATO summit earlier on Wednesday that there was no likelihood of Ukraine joining the military alliance. Later on Wednesday, 7 European countries including Britain, France and Germany insisted they be part of any future negotiations on Ukraine's fate. "Our shared objectives should be to put Ukraine in a position of strength," read the joint statement released after a meeting of foreign ministers in Paris. "Ukraine and Europe must be part of any negotiations." They called for strong security guarantees for Ukraine and said they were looking forward to discussing the way forward with their American allies. While it has long been known the new U.S. administration would be less sympathetic to Ukraine than its predecessor, the words from Trump and his defense secretary Pete Hegseth will have only pleased Moscow. Zelensky has repeatedly argued there can be no talks on Ukraine without Ukraine, but the Trump-Putin phone call proved otherwise. Western help and the Ukrainian forces who benefited from it are the reason Kyiv did not fall within days of Russia's invasion, as was expected by some. But the road to a just peace, as Zelensky puts it, is neither going to be straight nor smooth for Ukraine. The Ukrainian president said his own call with Trump had been a good and detailed discussion about a variety of issues, and that he had also met U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is visiting Kyiv. "No one wants peace more than Ukraine. Together with the U.S., we are charting our next steps to stop Russian aggression and ensure a lasting, reliable peace," Zelensky wrote. The Ukrainian leader added, "We agreed to maintain further contact and plan upcoming meetings." The call between the US and Ukrainian leaders lasted an hour, according to AFP news agency. In an interview with The Guardian published on Tuesday, Zelensky suggested that Russian-held territory in Ukraine could be swapped for Ukrainian-held territory in Russia's western Kursk region as part of a peace deal. Putin spokesman Peskov said this was impossible. "Russia has never discussed and will not discuss the exchange of its territory. Ukrainian units will be expelled from this territory. All who are not destroyed will be expelled." Zelensky also insisted that the US, and not just European countries, would need to be part of any security package for his country. "Security guarantees without America are not real security guarantees," he said. Separately, Trump said that at some point you're going to have an election in Ukraine, in what was seen as a reference to the expiry of Zelensky's presidential term in May 2024. Zelensky says the continuing Russian invasion and martial law in Ukraine make it impossible to hold a new presidential election. Russia's Putin has repeatedly questioned Zelensky's legitimacy to hold any negotiations with Moscow. For more updates, news, views from around the globe, follow us on all our social media platforms at Globalpose.